let's start with Matthew. As a Ravens fan, how did you feel about their performance this past Sunday?
Okay, so I don't know if you have anything to say afterwards, but like, I'm just gonna go off on this for a little bit. But like Patriots, they play well offensively. They outran Ravens. Like Damian Harris carrying for like 121 yards, so like congrats to him. But like we didn't have like Calais Campbell, we didn't have like Brandon Williams, and like at secondary we didn't have like Jimmy Smith or like Marcus Peters, and he's a pretty big piece to our defense. And like I'm not saying that's an excuse to like why we lost because injuries happen in football. That's the given. Like you can't expect your players to always be there 100% of the time. But honestly, like people are surprised of how well the Patriots like ran over Ravens. Given what happened to our defense, I'm not really surprised that that's what happened. So that's not really what like that to me. That wasn't like the big letdown of the game because I didn't think our defense would hold together with those injuries. What I really want to talk about, like usually though, when we talk about Ravens, what I really want to talk about is Lamar. He threw for 249 yards and 2 touchdowns, and we have won games this season where he has thrown worse. But here's the thing. I know Lamar, like, I said this to you many times, Lamar can throw the ball. He has a great passing ability. Now, that wasn't ever his problem. Like, when the people watch him play and he criticizes the way he plays, his problem is that he can't throw. His problem is his mental game and his ability to how quickly he can find a target. And when you watch him play, when he has time to run behind line of scrimmage, when he has time to like all time in the world to kind of find his target, he will make a good pass and he will show that he can actually throw. Like unlike what people say about when you take away that time from him, when you don't let him run around behind scrimmage, that's when he's going to make these bad plays, and that's what we saw more often than not on the games that we lost. And so I'm ranting on this game because this game was kind of hard to watch, but so yeah, he didn't have his worst passing game, but he had the same problem we've seen time and time again from Lamar Jackson. When you put pressure on him, then he can't throw. So yeah, this wasn't his worst game, but he hasn't proven his ability to come back a lot under pressure. And yeah, people talk about the bad weather conditions, but in that final drive, there was not a second, even in good conditions, where I would have thought that he would make that completion, where I thought Ravens were going to come back. And last week we talked about Kyler Murray, and we talked about we kind of argue about Kyler Murray, but how like whether or not he can be successful in the league. And the main argument why I support Kyler Murray the way he plays over Lamar Jackson's potential is because we saw last Sunday Kyler Murray can make big plays. And yes, he had DeAndre Hopkins who made an amazing catch, but if Lamar Jackson was throwing that ball to Hopkins, I don't think that ball would have made it. I think that Kyler Murray can make that throw. I don't think Lamar Jackson would have made that throw because Kyler Murray has proven he can make big plays, and that's why, like, if you look at the amount of game-winning drives they had in the career so far, Kyler Murray has twice as many of those type of games than Lamar Jackson because Lamar can't have doesn't barely ever has game-winning drives. And look, we already know what Lamar Jackson can do. I've said this many times. The reason why we were so impressed by him last year is because how much he elevated his game from his rookie season. The problem now is he hasn't elevated really much from his last season. He's kind of the same player he was last year, and people know that. And when defenses are calling out your plays right before the snap, that kind of shows how limited your skill set is at this point if you don't grow your game. I'm pretty sure you agree with me on that point. I'm not sure, but I don't know. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, you bring up a lot of interesting points. I think that comparison to Kyler Murray is fair because they have kind of similar attributes to their game, and when you kind of analyze it, I think Lamar Jackson Kyler Murray is almost kind of getting away with what Lamar Jackson got away with last year. Didn't win the division, so he has a bit of an easier schedule. They're kind of the new team on the block. You have Hopkins, you have a good defense, you're well coached. There's a good feeling around that club, and the Hopkins, Hail Mary catch is kind of like just one of those things that happens in a year, and it could, change the way a team plays. It changes the momentum of a season. So it's kind of one of those things that happened for Arizona. Going back to the Baltimore game. I remember, I think it was around this time last year where kind of Lamar Jackson was the MVP. You had Mark Ingram on the podium. That the whole big trust speech. I know you're probably very fond of that speech, and you have a very, good memory of that game and kind of what transpired for the rest of the season. But here's what bothers me. Again, we talked about it last week. I'll just bring it on. I'll harp on this point a little bit this week before I move on to other games. You don't win with running quarterbacks. And Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson are very similar in the way they throw the ball, but they don't have that kind of deep ball threat consistently. And I think they're more runners than they are passers. And come playoff time, when you're playing top defenses, it doesn't work. Because I think teams know what to expect, and when teams know what to expect, it makes it harder to win games. And when you're in the playoffs, you're playing the best teams, and there's a reason it's tough to win the Super Bowl, and there's a reason that it takes a special team to win every year. And Baltimore, they're well coached. They have a great defense. The question is, can they get a consistent passing game going? It feels like every game they're kind of running the same offense, and teams are starting to adjust to it. And Lamar Jackson, he'll always be, close in games. He'll always keep a game close because of his ability to move the ball with his legs. He'll keep the chains going. So they'll never not score points. He'll always bring something on the offense, within every game to keep that team competitive. But the question always remains in football is the fourth quarter. The fourth quarter is where games are won and lost, and that's what we have to see from some of these teams. We have to see better fourth quarter performances from Baltimore. We haven't seen it yet this year. The phrase I love saying is you're only as good as your last week. So we could talk about Baltimore. We could talk about Lamar Jackson last year, but he didn't win anything last year. This year, the expectation is Super Bowl or bust because of the fact that he wasn't MVP. You have one of the best defenses in the league. And if you're Lamar Jackson, you have to prove that you could win at QB by doing what you do best. And is what he does, is the Baltimore Ravens offense good enough to win a Super Bowl? I think you're losing a little bit of hope. I've not had that hope because of the way Lamar Jackson plays. I just don't believe a QB could win playing like that. But again, we'll see because time will tell. Playoffs are a different animal. It's close. They're in a wildcard spot right now. Pittsburgh's going to win that division. So they still have a fight. They're fighting out with Indianapolis and Miami, two teams that have played very well this year. So it's going to be an interesting fight. They should make the playoffs, but it's not a guarantee. They have to play well, and they don't have a very easy schedule coming up. So Baltimore is going to be a very interesting team to keep our eye on, and I think it's a team that we're going to consistently be talking about.
Here's the thing. I agree with you for most of what you're saying. The only thing I actually disagree with you on is the fact that we had this argument constant that, like, you say that running quarterbacks can't make it, like, can't go far, can't win Super Bowl. I think that's slow, like, simplistic on, like, I get what you're saying from that, but I think, like, what more is I believe that running quarterbacks can win Super Bowl. But the question is, when they need to throw, can they do it? Can they make the big plays when they're required to? I think you can win games with, like, most of your legs, but there'll always be a point in the game when you need to pass the ball, when you need to make a big play, and if you can just make those plays at the right time, you can still win games, I think.